It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Abel Buch, and thanks a lot for joining us. Usually January is a very slow month, but it seems to be one of the fastest Januaries in quite a while. A lot is happening, not just in Nigeria, across the world, and in the United States. There's an impeachment trial going on. There's things happening in the Middle East, but of course Nigeria has its own fair share of drama. The Amotekun issue is still raging. A lot of Nigerians are still giving their opinions as to what that might look like if it gets to take off. The anti-corruption or the corruption index around the world was released, and Nigeria's sort of slipped down the ranking again, and government has rejected that result, and we'll probably also try to touch on that. But first of all, we're going to be talking about education, something that a lot of Nigerians rarely talk about, but definitely affects a lot of what we do today, and most people say is the reason why we are where we are as a nation. And I have here with me someone who definitely has an opinion on all of this. Toyosi Akerele-Ogunsiji, thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much, because it's good to be here.
Yes, let's start with education now. There's so much that happens in that sector, or that should be happening, that's not happening. And I've had a lot of people come on this show, and the one consensus I think I get from a lot of people is that that's the one sector that this government doesn't seem to have a policy direction for, at least that they're following or sticking to. Do you agree with that?
First, I don't even think that it's about a policy direction. I think it's about the general body language of government at all levels to investment in education and to prioritizing education in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the things that we as a country should be paying attention to. First off, you think about the fact that Kenya dedicates about over 20% of its national budget to education. Ghana dedicates over 20% of its national budget to education. Nigeria gives between 6 to 7%. Now, that's number one. Number two is the quality of the Nigerian education at the moment does not in any way guarantee the sort of skills and the levels of global competitiveness that young people need to be able to key into the, in the global scheme of things. So what you have is an education that simply educates young people out of creativity, while we're here trying to teach young people basic mathematics and trying to get young people to pass JAMB and WAEC. Other countries are including artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, data science, which is the highest paying job in the world right now, into their curriculum. Yeah. And what you have is you're going to have university graduates out of Nigeria for whom it will be difficult to compete with secondary school students in other parts of the world. Yeah. So when we think about our education as a country, I think we need to begin to look at a system that powers our wholesome education through technology, a system that provides sustainable reward systems for teachers, a system that believes that education is greater than school. So it's important, so when you hear that young girls get raped, you want to do sex education, you want to prioritize sex education in our education system. Yeah. When you hear that young people are venturing into terrorism in the Northeast. One of the things I always say is that there's no system, there's no country that prioritizes education, skills, and jobs for its young people. And for those young people, terrorism will be their most viable alternative. Because in a system where people can access sustainable economic opportunities, they're going to have to take to the streets and chart their own cause and take their own destinies and fate into their own hands. So what you want is an education system, not just at the federal level of government, but at the state and the local government levels, where you don't just put a budget on education, you do sustainable monitoring and evaluation, impact assessment to see how young people are learning. You think about the quality of teachers that we absorb into the system. A state in this country a couple of years ago did a test for secondary school teachers. And the questions were primary school questions. And all of those teachers failed. Yeah. So when you put education in the hands of the people who have tried to find jobs in every other sector of Nigeria and did not get those jobs, and then they opt for teaching, what you find is that there's no way, what you find is that we're going to have subpar professionals, we're going to have a subpar public sector that is interfacing with the private sector that is predominantly made of people that went to school abroad who understand global international best practice. And that in turn impacts our entire system because politics and government matters. Yeah. When we talk about education and say, look, we want to talk about education as a standalone and we don't care about politics, what we forget is that the tax regimes that that are put in place that make it difficult for small businesses to thrive, the multi-level taxation and local governments that is not controlled even within the central local administration laws of different states of Nigeria, which make it difficult for enterprises to thrive. It all boils down to the quality of the people in our public service. And if you give the quality of education that you have in Nigeria's private sector to the public sector, you'll experience some form of paradigm shift in terms of the sort of results and productivity that we get. I'm going to close this session by saying that research has shown that a country's national productivity is directly proportionate to the quality of that country's human capital. So if we invest so much in everything, if we build those arable lands between Lagos to Ibadan will not till itself. If you build a knowledge economy that is not supported by a skill-based economy, it's going to crumble. Yeah. Because infrastructure will not build itself. If you build a house, or you create airports, or you build hospitals and health centers, and you give it to the people who are subpar professionals, there's just no way you're going to anticipate that all of those sectors will be able to compete with their counterparts
around the world. Thank you very much for just pretty much wrapping everything up for me in that particular. I just wanted to close out by saying, because I think I read something a few weeks ago saying that 1/3 of the jobs that our children today are going to do don't exist at the moment. And it makes you very scared.
Oh yeah, if you read my LinkedIn last week, I was saying that just while Nigeria is here debating about the legitimacy or the necessity of a Amotekun, other countries are already using surveillance, facial recognition, computer vision, artificial intelligence, using data science, using
just to monitor
geospatial,
and keep the world
geospatial
secure.
technologies to power their national security architecture.
And
so what
scary.
you want is a system that moves on from what did you study in school to what do you know how to do.
Which is what it should be.
Which is what it should be. So if you're studying math, physics, security studies, law, economics, accounting.
It doesn't matter what can you do.
You want well-rounded people who are, and then if you have a country like Nigeria, as with multi-level complexities at different levels. Our politics, our regionalization.
So there's actually opportunities because there's so many problems to tackle.
So many opportunities.
And you mentioned Amotekun there, and I want us to go into that now because it's still an ongoing debate. There's the belief that it has now sort of become a regional or even a tribal conversation now. Or do you guys want to do your own because we have done our own? Or when we did our own, you didn't let us do it. Is that a conversation that we should be having? And what are your thoughts about Amotekun on its own? Because there's a fear about giving power to regions to police themselves and what, like we know, politicians could be said to do with that. That's usually the fear. But they're saying, no, Amotekun won't be armed. But they always say, give a man a rope and you never know what he might evolve into becoming. So what are your thoughts on that? I
think first, the entire conversation around the important conversations we should be having about Amotekun have been obfuscated into political posturing. Like, one of the questions I'd like to ask as a young person in this country is, perhaps if we've done certain things right, if we got certain things right over the last couple of years in our democracy, we wouldn't even be discussing Amotekun at the moment. What has happened is a failure of our national security architecture, which has caused for some form of constant, consistent breakdown in our security system, which has now empowered people that you would describe as insurgents, as terrorists, to come into our country and then take over. However, Amotekun is, for me, will be acceptable to the extent that it is functional within the ambit of the law, and it is functional to the level of community policing. As someone who studied law the last couple of years ago, I personally believe that, security is in our exclusive list, but police is not in our exclusive list. Now, if states can have their own, own and operate their own legislature, their own judiciary, I don't see the reason why we shouldn't be able to have police in the hands of states. I would rather it was a state thing than it was a regional. Now, one of the things that worry me about Amotekun is that I saw that the negotiations are currently happening ipso facto. Those negotiations should have happened before the launch of the Amotekun. I would have anticipated there was some form of cohesion between, you know, the Governors Forum and the federal government, represented by the Attorney General, who is supposed to be overseeing this process. Yeah. And so we're not having a system where the FG comes out to say they oppose the Amotekun, and we're now at the point of negotiation. Is
it a worry that even within the party there seems to be a division? We've had former Governor Bola Tinubu saying there's nothing wrong with Amotekun. We've had the chairman of the Governors Forum, who is also from the southwest, where this is the governor of Ekiti State. Of course, is wants Amotekun to happen, but the federal government, which is also APC, right, seems to be against it. So there doesn't seem any cohesion in the party.
I think that's a contextual issue for the APC to be able to manage internally. Nigeria is not APC. APC is a component of our, national, framework. I think that's something that APC would try to figure out within their own internal procedures and systems. However, I'd like to come back to the conversation of whether Amotekun is something that has come to stay. I believe in it, just for the records. Yeah. But I believe in it to the extent that, it's not, I know that a lot of people worry, it's not competing with Nigerian police force. And I personally believe that non-violent crimes should be legitimately ceded to the states to handle. A man is beating his wife, domestic violence shouldn't be something that should worry the Nigerian police force, and the Commissioner of Police, the IG needs to be worrying about. It should be something that Lagos State, Ondo State, Osun State, Sokoto, Adamawa, Imo, or Enugu, and all that should worry about. I then think that bigger issues that have to do with fraud and all of those sort of, national, grand issues should then be ceded to the Nigerian police force. But I also know that there's a lot of concern about whether we should leave the police in the hands of states. Yes. About whether we should trust governors enough to give them the power to police.
That's the biggest argument against
But that also takes us to the issue of the recruitment process of the people we allow into our public sector system, public sector administration system.
If we don't trust them enough.
If we don't trust our governors enough, that they will be able to protect lives and property and protect the sovereignty of their own state. Why then did we allow them to get into office? But people will tell you, well, maybe the elections were rigged, or well, maybe this was not our candidate. But that also takes us to the internal processes of the political parties, where I then advocate for young people to infiltrate the system and go into office. Because if you're not on the table, you're on the menu.
But there's an argument that young people who have so far made it through haven't been the best representation.
I totally agree, but I would also answer you and say that for every one young person who's failed in government, there's been 10 other older people from 50 years ago who failed us. We cannot decide that because a few young people failed in public service, we're going to deny the other young people of the opportunity to be able to serve in government. What we want, therefore, is young people with competent character and capacity. Those are our recruitment, our political recruitment process
just has to be
for
better.
People just has to be better.
Sorry, just talking security, I just wanted to shift a bit from Amotekun, because Boko Haram is still in the news. Right. It's been going on for 2 governments now, and almost 3 terms of 2 different presidents, and Boko Haram is still in the conversation. And the Global Terrorism Index was released, and Nigeria is 3rd on the list. And that worries a lot of people because it was one of the major campaign points of this government. There obviously needs to be a shift probably in how this is tackled. I don't know if you have any...
What I would say, so I'm on the Presidential Committee of the Victim Support Fund, and I've had the opportunity to travel the length and breadth of the North. I mean, I've been to Bama, I've been to Goza, JTT, Daluri in Borno. I've traveled the length and breadth of Borno. I've been to Michika, Madagali, in Adamawa. I've been to Akerele-Ogunsiji. I've been to Buniyadi. I've been to everywhere, and I'm in Nigeria. And what I want to say is, the problem of the Northeast is not the problem of Northern Nigeria.
Exactly.
It's the problem of Nigeria. I'm Yoruba.
I'm probably even West Africa.
And I have no business risking my life, leaving my husband and children in Lagos and traveling, and risking my life in places that are 5 minutes close to places where you already see that Boko Haram has footholds. Yeah. However, I find that knowledge is a very important thing, and one of the things that we must do for Northern Nigeria as a matter of urgency is the education of the children in those communities. Boko Haram seems to be providing a viable alternative when it comes to economic empowerment for those young people. When people are hungry, they can never make the right choices. We will not stop building bigger prisons until we start building better schools, until we start providing just the sheer hope that is in my heart when I go into communities in the North and you give a child a tablet, A child who basically can't even read much or write much. Give him a tablet today, come back in 5 days, that child is operating that tablet with very minimal guidance. And I think that the government can do a lot more work with data gathering.
Yeah.
I think we can do a lot more work using technology.
Is this still are the governors doing enough? Because I know the last Borno State governor was quite involved with the fight.
Governor Babagana Zulum.
Yeah.
I've known him since he was commissioner for reconstruction, rehabilitation, and
reunification. I can't remember.
Yes, the 3 hours. He was the commissioner, and before then he was rector of the Borno State Polytechnic. And I think that personally he's been a remarkable public administrator. All of the monies that the Presidential Committee on the Victim Support Fund gave to Borno were properly accounted for, the rebuilding of the schools, the health centers, because we always went there to do flag-offs, and we always went there to go and commission all the schools, hospitals, health centers, police stations that we had to rebuild because of the Boko Haram insurgency.
Yeah.
I don't know about the 2 other governors, but for the Borno State governor, I think it deserves a lot more support, and I'm happy now that one of the things that worried me, which I'm happy that they're currently tackling, is the coordination of the grants that go into, this terrorism, the fight against terrorism. Because you need to understand that there's a huge economy built around the insurgencies that are going on.
Which is why it's still going on.
Yeah, a lot of people
we have just a minute to go, so I need you to very quickly just let me know, what do you think government should be doing differently with fighting insecurity in Nigeria?
I think first off, the military has to be provided more support. I get to meet those soldiers in the field many times when we travel, and I think the welfare of the military can be prioritized. I think second, data gathering and technology will play a very key role. If you go from Maiduguri all the way to Goza, all the trees are already, cut off on their heads, because those are the places where the terrorists climb and they shoot down helicopters by, foreign partners and all. But with computer vision, with facial recognition, with artificial intelligence,
are these short,
with machine
medium
learning,
term?
I think these are short. If you build a simple bot where you can crowdsource information anonymously from people who have basic feature mobile phones from those parts of the country, it will go a long way. We don't even have data. And how do we do national planning if we don't have data as a country? How do you even know? If you asked anybody in this country today, how many people are currently in all the IDP camps in this country? Who's going to give us that information? What is the process of resettling people back into their communities post, terrorism? Because, at the Victim Support Fund, we have, rebuilt a few schools, settled back a few farmers into their communities, places where people were scared to go into and all of that. But how are we using that data? How are we using data gathering and, to do monitoring and evaluation of the entire process such that we're sure? But I'm also going to say this, that on this terrorism issue and national security and Amotekwano, I want you to know that this is a totally different generation. And this is a generation that's going to school abroad. And when I run into you, Ebuka, abroad, the first thing is we're both Nigerians. We don't care whether we're Igbo, Hausa, or Yoruba. So Nigeria must move on beyond ethnic or religious prisms. Nigeria has to move forward. And we cannot use yesterday's knowledge to face today's challenges. And I'm going to close again by saying that there is no country that would give education, skills, and jobs and create sustainable economic opportunities for people. And then they would choose terrorism and insurgencies and put their own lives and the lives of their families at risk as a viable alternative. I think the government needs to look inwards a little more, and it's not just the federal government. The state and the local government. In fact, I think there's over-concentration on the federal government.
Yep.
Such that we've now abdicated the local government chairmen of their own responsibilities. We've absolved
where
them.
Where they exist.
Exactly. No, but they exist and they get monthly allocations. When your market is dirty, it's not the business of the president. Yeah. It's the local government chairman you should be calling out. When your inner city roads don't work, those are basic things that local government chairman get money for. But everything that happens, the governor is the one at the receiving end of all of our agonies and acts.
Or Buhari. Everybody just calls President Buhari.
but Buhari has his own responsibility as president. But I think that citizens need to be more engaged. And I know that there's nothing as powerful, even more powerful than any government, than an active citizen.
Thank you very much.
And a citizen who knows their rights.
Thank you very much, Toyosi. Technology, technology, technology. I think that's the solution to a lot of the things that
technology in the hands of the right people. Because people are also using technology to do all manners of, evil, sinister, and unacceptable.
Please come back to us. We'll have a lot to talk about. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back.